We're going to be covering the setup of the software on the rig that I built in the last video. This has turned out to be quite a good powerhouse so far, in my estimation. There's a few things that I've changed about it that I'm going to cover with you also, and we're going to go through the steps of setting up Ubuntu. We're also going to install Docker, and we're going to set up Ollama. I'm going to show you how to download some models, and we're going to look at some of the performance and some of the limitations that this system runs into. Hope you're excited. Let's get started. Since I put this rig together, which we did in the last video, you can find that in the channel's history, and do make sure to like and subscribe while you're in there and ring that bell. I did run into a problem with the 512 gigabytes of RAM that I had installed. One of the DIMMs was unfortunately not working. So I've ended up swapping out into 256 gigabytes of RAM. Now that's still gonna work just perfectly, even for really large models if we have to run them off the CPU. As I mentioned, there were going to be some connectors that I needed to get the topmost, that's actually slot 7, the furthest one up there, working, and I did get those in, and these are the Slim SAS cables. They're 4i to 4i. This is a really weird way to have this happen, to be honest with you. I'm not a fan of it at all. But these cables do need to be plugged in 0 to 0, 1 to 1, 2 to 2, 3 to 3 on the Slim SAS connectors up here to the U.2 Slim SAS connectors on the other side. So go ahead and start by downloading the Ubuntu desktop image right here. This will allow us to install the Nvidia drivers as part of the GUI, and that will be the easiest pathway for you to get up and running. And if you need to change or update things in the future, especially graphics drivers, this provides a very easy pathway to do it that is not based upon the CLI. We will be doing some CLI activity, but not a tremendous amount. I've got Ubuntu 22.04 already downloaded here. Let's go ahead and throw it on the USB flash drive. And we will be testing the 7 and 70 today, as well as the very large 405. While we're waiting for this to go ahead and finish its formatting, I'll quickly run you through some of the steps that we're going to be taking here. So we're going to be using Ollama. Ollama is going to be the runtime agent for us that we're going to have, which will allow us to download models. This is basically a command line in and of itself, but to make it easier to access and more user-friendly, we're going to use the Open WebUI components. This is a really cool and incredibly rapid amount of development happening on it daily. I've seen just even in a week changes that are wild. This is going to be installed inside Docker, and we're going to also be using the Nvidia Container Toolkit. This is going to be, of course, running the really great new model out from Meta, which is the LLAMA 3.1. And the 70B in particular on this GPU rig it's good. It runs really fast. We will also run the 405B, which is possible to run on CPU and system RAM, but that is not going to be super ideal because DDR4 it's not the fastest out there. But I do also have another really high-end system that we will be demonstrating against in the near future. And I think you're definitely going to want to hit that like and subscribe so you get notified when that system gets put together, and then we'll be able to run it, because that is a AMD Threadripper 7995WX, the world's fastest CPU, and it has 256 gigabytes of insanely fast DDR5. So we will get to see whether or not the 405 difference between this system and that system running on CPU for both is measurably quite different. I have a feeling it's going to be. Drop your comments below and let me know what you think. Okay, ready for us to toss it in and fire it up. So if you do go with the workstation or server route, you're likely to have a BMC, which is a very nice function because it allows you things like the H5 viewer here on this Gigabyte board, which basically gives us a remote console, which is essentially just the same thing that you would have if you had plugged in a monitor. It's a very nice feature, and that's of course accessible anywhere, so you don't have to be right behind your machine. So if you have, say, a noisy garage data center, which we'll have some fun stuff around that coming up shortly. But if you do have a noisy environment, this allows you to be inside and access it remotely over the IP address and still have interface controls and things like remote ISOs and stuff like that. But we're not going to be using the remote ISO function here today because the Ubuntu desktop is many, many gigabytes. And I'll hit F10 here to hopefully get into the boot menu. And we're going to select to boot from the USB drive. And we'll install Ubuntu, which is the first option. And there's a couple settings if you have your GPUs already plugged in. If you followed the last video, then they're probably set up very similar. Or if you have a GPU in your system, you're going to want to make sure that you follow along with one step here for sure, so that your display is activated when you install. And so we'll select the Install Ubuntu option. And we're going to check Install Third-Party Software for Graphics. That will allow us to have an updated graphics driver, and it'll basically look and probe for that graphics driver and pre-install the drivers for it. And I like using ZFS, and then you're going to select which drive you'd like. So for this instance, I'm going to go ahead and use one of the larger NVMEs that I've got here. And these are pretty darn high performance, each one. So it'll do a good job of downloading, uploading fast, and feeding the model into the VRAM or the system RAM. Just select the defaults and you're off. And eventually you get to the point where you can go ahead and restart. When you restart, you want to make sure that you have selected the drive that you've installed Ubuntu to set to your boot drive inside your BIOS settings. You may take this time to ensure that your PCIe devices on your subsystem in the advanced menu are set to either auto or to the appropriate settings for your GPUs. And also, if you have any bifurcation cards, like on slot 5 here with these NVMEs, we have X4 by X4. Make sure those are set here as well. I have this already configured, and so the only thing I need to adjust is the boot order here so that we get a hard drive, and then change the boot priorities for that hard drive. And that looks right. And I'm going to set this one to disable so we don't accidentally have a issue. Go ahead and save changes and exit. And after it reboots, we should be back in our system. Go to the additional drivers from the menu down here, and this will come up and tell you what drivers are available for the GTX 3090s. So again, you want to be on the driver metadata package that is the proprietary tested one. That's going to give you the best experience. And the latest here is going to be 545, which would be okay to run. 535 is fine also. So either one of those, really, it doesn't matter at this point. You're going to get really similar performance from both of them. So there's one thing that we need to go ahead and do here inside the machine. After this, we'll be able to remote into the machine from your other computer and complete the installation. And then we're going to actually be using a WebUI. So it'll be like accessing a website, but it'll be a locally hosted website, which is very powerful because that means your data and your queries stay here with you instead of out there with whoever. So we're going to go ahead and sudo apt install open ssh-server and go ahead and give it a yes. May ask you for a password there also. And before you walk away and go back to your machine, go ahead, SSH and your username. DSP is my username, and then the IP address of the server. And let's go ahead and I'll show you where you can get that. If you're in the terminal still, you can type IP-A, and you should see that right under your Eno1. Probably, if you're using physical hardware, like you're probably going to have to be for this type of an installation, you should see it. And so we can see that that is 219 for this IP address. So 192.168.1.219. So once you're in here, you can type reset bring it up to a little bit better visibility. And then we can go ahead and start the installation. We need to go ahead and install Docker. So there's just a couple things that we're going to run here that you probably want to go ahead, check the links below. There's a complete written guide for you just install things blindly. So let's go ahead and make sure that we don't have any conflicting packages. Doesn't look like we do. And then you can come down here and just click this, paste it on in. Click this and run it since everything just got installed here. So the next thing that we need to do is install the Nvidia Container Toolkit. This gives us the ability to have Docker access multiple GPUs from multiple Docker hosted containers at the same time, which is some incredibly powerful stuff. So we're going to go ahead and go with the apt installation. So we'll copy that, paste it on in there. Don't go with the experimental. Go ahead, run sudo apt-get update. And then we're going to go ahead and install the NVIDIA Container Toolkit. So this is very simple to do. This is basically just clicking the copy and pasting it in. You'll get up and running very quickly. So now that we've got Docker installed, we're going to go ahead and restart it so that it can see the changes that we have with the new NVIDIA Container Toolkit also. And we will run a configuration for the runtime of Docker to be recognized. Probably is the best way to get started with it. And that is to go ahead and just use the GPU supported all-in-one package, which we're going to use, which is down here, installing Open WebUI with bundled Ollama support. It's going to present you with quite a few benefits as far as some potential complexities with Docker that if you're new, which if you're on this video, there's a chance you're new. But we're going to type sudo at the front of that, and it'll download and pull the image down. After that's done, it will kick up and start our Ollama instance, and then we'll be able to browse to it from the web server, which is really cool. It's like a locally hosted website, so any computer inside your network that's connected to your network will be able to access it, and then you can use it also for things like an API backend if you run Nextcloud or something like that with their wonderful Nextcloud AI assistant technology. So you can give a lot of powerful things. We'll be diving really deep into a lot of other things, but this is a good base installation for folks. And remember, you don't have to have a multi-GPU rig. I would recommend getting a GPU, and honestly, a 3090 or a 4090 will actually be much more performant than what you might get for something a little bit lower. But the model and its ability to fit inside the VRAM, like 24 gigabytes of VRAM, or the aggregate VRAM, like for instance with these quad 3090s, that's 4 times 24 essentially. So that gives you a good amount of space to fit something like a 70. I mean, with the Llama 3.1, really, really impressive. In my opinion, that's something to optimize for when you're building and selecting your system. All right, and that was it. We are up and running. So I'm going to open a new tab here and go to 192.168.1.219 and then port 3000. Port 3000 is going to be kind of a internal mapping to external mapping for the Docker container to the web hosting. So we don't have a account yet, so we're going to go ahead and sign one up. This is not an online account, so this is just a local account to keep your AI server kind of private. So we're going to create an account for DSP for me. I'm going to give it my own email in case I need to do a password reset for myself. And then we're going to go ahead and click create account. Since I've already created that account, I'm going to go ahead and click sign in. So when you land over here, the first thing you need to do is go ahead and go to the admin panel. This is where we're going to go to the settings, and over here at models, we're going to go ahead and type in a model, and it'll be in the format that we have like this, Mistral and then 7B. So the parameters after it for the one that you want to use. We're going to click on that and grab, of course, one of the Llama 3.1s, which really good models here. I'm going to grab the 70B because this will actually fit inside those quad GPUs and it runs really, really, really nice. So coming back over here, all you got to do is toss that in here and then click download. It's going to pull it down, take some time. It'll give you a little countdown. Gonna hit pause and I'll be right back. Okay, and it will eventually get you to the point where it will tell you that it is done. So let's go to our new chat here really quick. And from the drop down, we're going to select the Llama 3.170B. Over here, I'm going to run NVTop. So you can see the GPUs working. I'm going to actually zoom this in a little bit and then run NVTop so that we can actually see the charts. There we go. So yeah, now that we're here, we can actually start querying it. So count to 100. And it does take some time to warm it up for that first query. After the first one, it is much faster. So don't be alarmed if it kind of looks like it's freaked out a little bit during the first one. And you can see it hitting the GPUs here and the amount of RAM that it's occupying in each one of them. So that is quite a bit. So next we can go back here and you can see the speed of it is actually really good. The first one, yeah, that slowness, but now it's just going to really tell me a story about a cat verbosely, which very fast. I think this is actually quite impressive. This, I wanted to also take this chance. I mentioned it in the other video. A lot of people ask this question. How are you approaching this kind of content? So hardware-based videos like assembly of hardware and reviews of hardware will be done separately from software installation and setup. That will be done separately also. And then on the other side of that, we will have configuring, testing, and using. That is yet another that's kind of use case based. And then we're also going to have benchmarking. So there will be 4 categories of these types of videos that I'll primarily be doing. And that should give us a common basis for comparison and for performance. But as you can see, that was actually pretty darn fast. I'm not going to deep dive on all the functions and features of Ollama WebUI, Open WebUI right now. That will be coming, and we'll be setting up and configuring some different things inside here. And then we'll get onto some use cases, because I think that's really what we don't get a lot of. And I have needed that myself. So I figure you out there drop what you want and are interested in as far as use cases, whether that's document composition, writing code, generating images. This is a very, very capable system that we have here. Visual composition. Whoa. There's going to be some cool stuff we're going to see. So I'll be back after this is done. We'll give the 405 a run, and you can see what the performance is like on that. That one, again, rivaling ChatGPT-4 as far as quality. However, the speed of it is definitely going to be impacted dramatically if we look at running it on a system like this that is not essentially dual H100 clusters. Sad, but also it's to be expected. Wow, that took a really long time. So have patience if you're doing that. And of course, we're going to see that hitting over here. And I don't think we're going to see this hitting the GPUs at all. But there is a lot of cores. There's a lot of cores on the 7702. So let's go ahead and count to 100. And this is, oh, forgot to select the 405 there. Go away, modal. 405. And there we go. Let's see. Why you die? You didn't die last time. So 70B is operational. 405. Oh boy. So I'm not sure if this is a Quant 4 or not. If it's not, I don't think there's enough system RAM. So it wouldn't be able to load in if that happened. You can see that we've got 252 displayed here. So that that might not happen. I'm not sure whether or not it pulled a Q4 or not. But with this as a 405 selected, let's go ahead and hit regenerate. See if it can load. Oh, and it crashed out. So yeah, when you see it crashing out like that, it's a good sign that you're not able to run a model on your specific hardware. So gave it a try there. There may be a way to get it to run, but what's weird is I did get it to run when I manually pulled it and ran it from the CLI, but running it from inside the interface here does not appear to function. So I need to look a little bit more into that, but I'm just going to put that one kind of down as a bug at the moment. Yeah, and it may be trying to force it into GPU memory or something. It did look like it kind of kicked it up there right at the end and then determined it wasn't going to be able to fit. Finish this up with the 8B. This is probably a pretty good option for a lot of people if you have just a single GPU. This could actually work really good. So let's take a look at what the speed looks like regenerating this request that we had here. And of course, once again, as you queue it up, it's going to need to kick it into your GPUs. So that first time you run it, it will take a little bit of time to load it in, but it should start up here pretty quickly. And as you can see, the 8B fits inside a single GPU. Those, again, 3090s are allowing it to fit inside it. If you look at the GPU memory that's actually being utilized during this, it's very small. I think you would be able to easily fit this inside a single 8GB card, because it looked like it peaked out at about 6.366. So that should definitely fit inside an 8GB VRAM card. Anything like a 3060 would perform pretty well if you were just looking at running this. And I do have a host of a bunch of different types of cards that we'll be benchmarking for sure. The 8B and the Llama 3.1 against. But I am just glad that we were able to get you guys up and running. If you're new, this is that ultimate guide for you. So hopefully, let me know in the comments below how this worked out for you. I know there were a few things, especially around Docker, that I read a bunch of people had problems. So I tried to just give you a complete end-to-end guide so that you could get up and running without leaving any holes or gaps in the knowledge. And as I mentioned, this is, of course, not one of the benchmarking videos, but I know a lot of people had asked me, what are you getting on the 70B? So I just wanted to give you guys on a fresh regeneration, not a first run. Here's what I'm getting, about 17.73 tokens per second, which good for the 70B. And we'll run that now for the 8B, and we'll actually get a run, and then I'll run it again. 8B, of course, running quite a bit faster as well, as one would expect. So we'll give that the second run here also to just make sure it's clean. And then you can take a look at those statistics here. We're going to have much more entailed as far as the benchmarking. This is just because so many people had asked me. And again, that unfortunately 405 can't get that puppy to run right now, but 99.35 tokens per second on the 8B. And that's really only hitting one of the 3090s. So good option. There's a couple cards that are going to do surprisingly well that I know already that I've got that I think people are going to be pretty excited when they see. So there will be definitely more on the single GPU side. I'm working at a really, really cool little budget build that is as cheap as I can make it, and also will be good for serving as the basis for these, low end system, but also low end systems nowadays with things like this. Oh, Llama 3.1 has really changed the game. And also the open WebUI has really changed the game as well. And so once again, this is a video that is part of the how-to on getting set up and operational with software. We have other categories like hardware, like the prior video that I did. Make sure to check that out and make sure you hit like and subscribe to this channel. I appreciate that a lot. And certainly this will help you get up and running. this should be the ultimate guide for you. And I'm glad that we were able to get this working today. Mostly, I think that it's just a probably pretty small setting somewhere for the 405B to get it to run off the CPU. Instead, it looked like it was trying to kick over off of the GPUs. And certainly, I'm looking forward to the use case approaches that we have for it. And a lot of people had asked me about benchmarks. Those will be coming as soon as we get more systems set up. I've got a low-end system, this system, and then we've got a ridiculous system, a super duper high-end system. So that I hope you guys are looking forward to also. Everybody, let me know what you guys think and what you guys are looking for in the comments below, and I'll try to get around to as much as I can. We're going to go through a lot of customization in the Ollama user interface. There is so much that you can do, and it has gotten to be incredibly powerful literally in just the past like 2 months since I've been playing with it. It's wild. It's just wild. I hope you guys are having a great day, and I look forward to accelerating your knowledge into the future.